Hey guys, hope you're doing well. It's nice and early in the morning, and I wrote up something yesterday that I was thinking about, and I think it could be quite a good way to think about life. And I want this channel to primarily be one that's related around essentially human optimization. But optimization for what? Well, it's optimization for whatever you find meaningful in life. And I came up with these kind of sliders because if you look back at one of my really old videos, the one and only essentially like review that I've done of a book that hasn't just been like reading out or something, has kind of been like I did it about how to read the book. There's a book called How to Read a Book, or yeah, I think it's called that. And in that, I talked about how an art is almost like using different sliders to work out how like intense you want something to be. So when a skier is going down a slope, they're thinking about how intensely they want to move forward, thinking about the positioning of like their muscles. You can almost think of it in a way like they're thinking about how intensely they want to move those muscles. They're thinking about the intensity of the hardness of like their skis or the slope that they're on. Similarly, an artist is thinking about how intense they want the colours to look in a certain, say, a painting or something. Or they're thinking about the intensity of speed when they're making like a music video or a film. And so essentially art is like working out how many different intensities of different variables you want. And so in the same way, when we think of art as a sport, we think of it like this. Or well, we don't, but maybe some of us do. But we can think of it like this. You can see that. Where like different people as athletes coordinate themselves to be in like at different sliders. Someone who throws like who does the hammer throw is going to optimize their body and diet and their like everything about themselves to maybe not really be able to run really fast, but to be able to throw really far. And it doesn't necessarily mean, whereas like a swimmer is going to adapt for different things. A sprinter doesn't need as much speed, but what they can do instead is they can a sprinter needs a lot of speed, and so they'll try and push this slider up to the higher ends of the intensity of it, but then they'll reach a certain point where they'll need to go even further, and when they need to go further they'll have to decrease some of these other areas. And so I think this is a really helpful way to think about life in that same way, because at some point you can, with the variables that we think about when just thinking about life, at certain levels good habits and things we want to increase can reinforce on other things and make them better and improve. But at a certain level it also seems like if you want to go any further in that thing, you have to start subtracting from something else. So I came up with this model, which is, for instance, a whole load of other sliders. And one would be health, one would be money, one would be relationships, and then this is just a prototype. But you could have, for instance, potentially like solitude, you could have like purpose, maybe you could even have, say, entertainment. Maybe arguably something like this could even work for a whole society as well. But yeah, it's just a prototype, and this has come from like thinking about so many things like, for instance, reading half of Essentialism, and how that essentially says that in order to go forward, what you often need to do is just get rid of stuff you don't actually care about. You know, if you've got some kind of really expensive vase that you're carrying around with you that you really care about, then like you're going to be able to get to your destination very, very, much more easily and without dropping this vase if you're not carrying 15 different bags of luggage as well with you at the same time. And you can think of the vase as things that you really care about, and sometimes in that sense you may break the vase if you try and hold everything else on. And I was also thinking, because I think that this is more of an amoral perspective on these things as well, and it's also a perspective that doesn't have to kind of universalize to what it universalizes in the conditions that people face, but even then it may be that people have different sliders on their list of their own life. In fact, actually, that might even be a good thing, that people come up with their own categories for sliding. And essentially, how it would work is that you think, okay, well, between here and here, this is low intensity of it, and that's high intensity of it. So, with health, with money, with relationships, maybe with entertainment or solitude or whatever, we can think that we can improve in them, and they can even help reinforce other things in those things to become more intense. But at a certain level, if you're going to prioritise one of them, you're also going to prioritise less of another one. So it'd be interesting to see what people would come up with for themselves for those. And I think it also goes back to another idea that I've had, or two sayings that others have said to me that I think are really interesting, and I go back to in my head, and even sometimes become some kind of guiding principle in an abstract sense. One of them was that I was in a philosophy class doing the philosophy of religion when I was back at university, and my lecturer said, I think we were talking about Kierkegaard, and he was saying that a lot of people try and focus on living absolutely to the absolute, i.e. God or creation or something, but perhaps another aspect of living to the absolute, perhaps another reason, another way of living to the absolute is to treat the relative. And following on from that, one of my dad's friends has a saying which is, everything in moderation, including moderation itself. And I like those because, more so the second one, because it's paradoxical, but then I think that a lot of the truths that we find in the world are very paradoxical when you look at them a certain way. And I think that idea of everything in moderation, including moderation itself, it's it reminds me of the Lao Tzu quote that's something like, there's a time to be in danger, there's a time to be in safety, there's a time to be quick, and there's a time to be slow, and some other stuff. And I think it's just a full acceptance of not just some kind of rigid, kind of fixed dichotomy of, oh no, you've always got to be this way, or oh no, you've always got to be that way. That the internet and morality in general tries to place on us this kind of dichotomy. But it's perhaps a better way to think about life is like a slider model, that if you put, it isn't that any of them have to kind of go against each other to a certain extent. In fact, you can improve your health and your money at the same time, but at the same time as well, if you're going to focus on your health to an even larger extent, you may not focus on your money. What were you going to have to decrease your money as a percentage? And essentially life is like that. You don't have to make many trade-offs necessarily, and when you do make a trade-off, obviously it's important to try and make it your highest valued one that you do the trade-off for, but it's like a way of incorporating everything. So yeah, that was just an idea that I have to share with you, and perhaps we can develop it together. We can each come up with different sliders for our own lives, and then just like the art of cooking or the art of martial arts or something is varying all the intensities of those intensity sliders to the optimum way to execute something. Just like that is art. Well, according to this definition at least. We could think about art in that same way for the art of life, which is varying the intensity of the things that we are focusing on and we care about, and not having to push them to like the highest, not having to make them fall short of where they need to be, but finding where they are perfect for us, perhaps at the time we're in.